we'd like to call this the steady lineup, and all those records we've done before with that caused mixed emotions. In fact, I was not too concerned about those records, and I really wasn't into those really by that time, because if they would have sounded different, yeah. As long as I can pursue my way of what I think Helloween should be and all that, it would definitely sound different. But by that time, I've merely been put into a certain corner, and at least Ingo and Michael, they wouldn't have liked to exactly know about my stuff and what I think things should go like, and then it would show, and you would also sell less albums, even though I think that Roland has done a pretty good job on his things. But I can't exactly say that I was invited to do much more of what I intended to do. At least I was left there with no help, and so therefore on the Chameleon I would have to go out on my own rather, and then there's like two quite time-consuming tracks of Michael on there, I think quite mediocre, and so therefore it's giving away a certain picture, and certain things you just couldn't discuss or talk about during that time, and this is why those records came about like that, in fact. And I think we've just put our feet back on the ground. We just know where we are and who we are and what we have to do.
Is Master of the Rings your last album? Was that a conscious move back to basic for Helloween?
Yeah, sure, even though there was even some unconscious twist to it still originating from the Chameleon in a way, because listening to the Master of the Rings now, I think it's damn commercial in a way when I listen to my own tracks. But this is just because Secret Alibi, for instance, and The Game Is On, which are two quite commercial numbers in a way, they come from a time after the Pink Bubbles, where I thought, okay, if you want this, I can give it to you. But during the Chameleon, they didn't want to do it. So, I mean, the tracks that ended up on the Chameleon were the ones picked by the band. And the other tracks on the Master of the Rings were there in demo versions, and they could have been taken as well, And so, therefore, it's kind of a link between the Chameleon and Time of the Oath, which I still think is a very heavy one with a lot of warmth and a lot of impact. And at least it's been the right move to lead back to where we've came from, to be credible in a way,
During these last albums, have your fans stayed true to you, or do you feel that you had to win back confidence?
Oh yeah, sure, we had that feel, even though during the tour and right after the record, there was no hard evidence to be brought up. In fact, I mean, everything played for itself and for us, in favor to us, and it was not that we would have to contend or fight hard. In fact, sympathies were coming back right after the Master of the Rings has been released, and so then people just wanted to see how this unit would function live on stage, and I think they were blown away just from the very first chord, and I think they were quite okay then, and we were in fact very lucky and also very happy about the situation.
Time of the Oath is another concept album from Helloween. What's the story like this time?
It's not exactly a concept album, but you can put most of the lyrics in line with Nostradamus' prophecies. That's what it's all about. And Nostradamus, that's been that old seer from the 16th century out of France. Yeah? You know him.
Mm.
And he's done a lot of prophecies, and what we're dealing with here is called the Time of the Oath, and this is what he refers to as the time in between 95 and the year 2000, which is now. And he said something grave is going to happen to mankind, because he's seen red sparks in the sky and snow whiter than white. And that might be another nuclear war, or a nuclear power plant blowing up, or any kind of catastrophe, maybe a snow catastrophe. And what it basically indicates is that mankind for this time should stick together in a very sane way to deal with things, that we could overcome that threat that is in fact actually there, because it would happen if nobody would care. And mankind is obliged to really have a look on things and stick together as mankind. in a very nice way to maybe avoid anything like that to happen, because this is basically what Nostradamus is doing his prophecies for. He's not there to intimidate us or to threaten mankind, and in fact he threatens us, but this is not his basic idea of things. He just told those things in the hope that mankind would be sane enough to avoid everything like that. This is why he uttered it before. And then you just need to be very careful about what he said, because he's been proven right all the time, and therefore there's no joking about things like this.
Right.
And in fact I wonder, because usually magazines or the media or something like the Reader's Digest, you know, they would dwell on things like that, and they would rip things like that up and make it into a sensation. And so far I'm pretty puzzled right now, because it doesn't happen, you know, nobody's saying anything about it, and it's not in the media, and so therefore I wonder, you know, why they don't bring it up.
Okay, it's not too late.
No, not exactly. I mean, because there's a certain date mentioned when the new city on that and that meridian and those coordinates will be destroyed, and that's namely New York. And it's to happen on the 20th of August 1998, so it's not exactly too late. In fact, it's quite actual. And so the grave thing hasn't happened to mankind yet. Maybe that's the start of things to come, or maybe that's the end of things to come, you never know, but at least it's been predicted, and we have to be very aware of what we're doing, because you don't know if the Chinese or the Russians or whoever would start that rocket to New York, you know? And so you got to be very careful. I just came back from New York, and it was a very odd feeling sitting there telling that to the guys, you know.
Okay. The time of the oath is a kind of a warning of the future?
Of Nostradamus, not of us. And so, I mean, it's in so far you can call it a bit conceptual, because lyrics like Before the War or Kings Will Be Kings would also correlate with that subject, yeah. I mean, we had a lot of ideas, and before with the Master of the Rings we were left with about 2 weeks to get done and finished with that rehearsal for the record, and so there was not exactly much time to get band work involved. But I mean, this time we had 5 weeks, we've given ourselves 5 weeks to do so, and in fact we had loads of ideas and all that, but like many solo parts, many choruses, many bridges or so were done by the whole band, and many instrumental parts, mainly in Mission Motherland or in Anything My Mama Don't Like. And we also left a lot of stuff out, so we went into the studio with about a third or a fourth of the remaining material missing, in fact, like verses, bridges, choruses, intro parts and all that, because well, at least I had the intention to keep things a bit more spontaneous then. Once you sit there and you can rehearse things to a certain point where everything is dead. And I always like it that there's some spontaneity going on during the recordings. So in fact, many lyrics we didn't have, and so Uli came up to me with the verse and the bridge for Wake Up the Mountain, where he wouldn't know what kind of riffs there would be played or so, and so I had to think it out. And by thinking it out and by conceiving it, it's already been recorded. You know, so a lot of things on this record are just merely spontaneous, just like that epic part on Mission Motherland, where Andy is singing that slow part, that classical part. And that's more or less like, how's the melody? And I would hum it to him, and then he sang it, and it's been put on tape right away.
Do you think that gave more energy into the album?
Certainly. I'm always sure that this is some kind of thrill and tension that's really coming across once you do it like that, because you could rehearse it over and over and over, and then everyone would have like the right twist to it, and it would be dead. You know.
All the former members of Helloween are busy working on different projects now, except for one, of course. Have you got any idea why your former drummer Ingo committed suicide?
This is because he's been taking a lot of cocaine and a lot of hash and a lot of alcohol. And he wasn't the most stable character on this world, you can say that. And so we had to send him to some treatment, and during the 3 therapies he had to undergo, they even found out that he was suffering from schizophrenia ever since his birth. And so you can call this combination of factors uncurable. And so it wasn't possible to take him into the band anymore, so we told him that. And 1 month or 2 months later, in fact, life must have become such a burden to him, but from his last girlfriend we know that he wasn't angry at us or something. It was just merely that he finally understood the whole situation, and he knew it was a complete mess, and there was a hard way getting out of it. Even though he could have still looked for a girlfriend, he could have founded a family, which he always wanted, and he could have looked for another easier job. But I think to conclude all that and come there was just too heavy for him, because thinking didn't come easy to him anymore by that time. It must have been like very, very dreadful. Apart from that, there's a lot of people from the outside talking about things of how unresponsible the band might have acted, that it finally led him to that conclusion, and this is all crap. In fact, I would like to have those people shut their mouths and just, well, shut up, you know. Because if they would like to utter anything concerning that, I mean, they've not been in the thing and not in the situation. And if they don't understand that they're merely acting as assholes if they try to do so, you know, I'm not willing to accept any other opinion what's coming from the outside.
Of course.
You know?
Let's move to a happier topic. You sell loads of albums in Japan, and your concerts are always sold out. Do you know why you're so very popular in Japan?
I think it's going along with their character and their own culture, because it's very, very similar, and what we are offering them is like heroic melodies and romantic stuff and evergreen type melodies, even in a classical way. And the Japanese already like German classics very much. And this is because their own classical music, so their own folk songs and melodies, are very, very similar to the understanding of German romantics. And so therefore it's very, very near to each other, and they certainly like it quite a bit. And as we have a lot of those parts in there in our music, they go for it that much.
When I saw you on the Chameleon tour, you did not play any of the classic Helloween tracks which Kai Hansen had written. I understand your attitude is different now.
We wouldn't play that many anyway, because in fact I found many of them that classic because they've been ripped off of many classic songs before, and therefore I'm not interested in playing ripped off stuff.